we got? Okay, we are live now. If there's anybody in chat, I don't have my YouTube stuff up. If there's anybody in chat, go ahead and give us a thumbs up or a one in the comments, so we know that people can see us. Well, hey everybody, whether you're watching or not, we're going to find out here in a little bit. I am here tonight with Jason from Kentucky Sustainable Living. He's got a YouTube channel. How long you been doing your channel there, Jason?
Since this summer, only I think maybe 6 months, if that, somewhere around there.
Okay, and I could tell I could tell you only been doing it for 4 or 5 months. I can tell that you've been at it the homesteading thing for a lot longer, because the stuff you show on your video is from a well-established homestead. You want to tell us how you, first off, how did you get started? Did you start off as a homesteader to begin with, or did you start off prepping, or how did it all come about, the YouTube channel?
Well, started off kind of like everybody else. A lot of people, it's beans, bullets, and Band-Aids is kind of the thing. And I looked at it. I'm like, yes, you can prep all kinds of food. You can have tons of pew-pews and all the ammo that you need and everything, all the Band-Aids you need and all the food. But if you got a year's food supply, what do you do on day 366? And I've heard a lot of older guys, it's like the first time you crack that freeze-dried meal of your year's food supply, the time starts on your life. You've got to have a resupply. So that's, I've always been in kind of agriculture growing up and stuff like that, helped on guys' farms and everything. I've always wanted to raise animals. So I was at the point, I was like, hey, I want some chickens. So me and my wife, I talked her in, I was like, let's get some chickens. And that's, of course, the stinking gateway drug right there.
Yes, it is.
So we started off with a bunch of chickens. We got some sheep. I was like, let's get a few sheep. So we started with a ewe and her 2 babies. Everything was going good with that. I was like, let's get us a ram. Let's get some livestock guard dogs. One of my buddies called me and he was like, hey, I've got some piglets. You want some piglets? And my wife said, no, we don't. And I was like, yes, we do. So we ended up, it was like the Redneck Olympics trying to catch these little piglets with fishing nets. It was crazy. So we did that, raised some feeder pigs, and I'm like, this is good to go. Let's keep on. And it's kind of kept on growing more and more. We've got a few cattle right now. And then we've got, I think, 6 ewes and a ram. And we've still got chickens. Got a few pigs that we're going to put in the freezer here in the next little bit. And it just kind of went from there. I think everybody starts with the beans, bullets, and Band-Aids and winds up realizing that you've got to have some way to sustain yourself. So That's what I wanted, is a more sustainable lifestyle as far as growing your own food, growing as much meat as you can, growing your vegetables, all that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's been my thing for a long time, is homesteading is the ultimate expression of preparedness, because instead of having your preparedness stuff in freeze-dried foods and in buckets and everything, you've got it on the hoofs, you've got it on the wing, and it's out there and you're growing it. And it's kind of funny. Your story is almost the exact opposite of Angela and I, Yoda and I, because I was the one, I'm like, hey, we're not ready for this stuff. But she was a real estate agent. So she was getting all these animals. And I'm like, whoa, cool your jets. We're not ready for it. And it's like, too bad, they're coming today.
Oh yeah.
So we had to learn a lot of stuff on the fly, And but it's great that you started doing it. But we were talking before we started broadcasting, and you were telling me it's obvious from your logo, the sheep with the helmet and the camo on. It's obvious that you came from a prepper background. I mean, it's kind of hard not to see it. But you were telling me about what Kentucky Sustainable Living is. Can you share with everybody on the in the chat exactly what that is? Because I did not realize it was as deep as what it is, and it's fascinating.
me and a few other guys started. We met each other online, met each other in person, had a small little meeting, and we're like, we need to start some kind of statewide group, essentially a statewide mutual assistance group. So it started out just a handful of us. We wrote up a few little rules and bylaws and just started talking to each other, set that up. We put a Facebook group together and started getting members that way. And we've grown. We've got a Facebook group. We're working on a website. And then we've got a smaller part of that group of background checked and vetted members all across the state that essentially they're members that you can rely on. Essentially, what we've come and grown is a statewide mutual assistance and statewide community of like-minded individuals. I'm not really going to say how many people we've got in it, but it's a substantial group with people from almost every background and every walk of life. As far as medical, former military, you've got guys that work in factories, you've got nurses, just all that kind of stuff, all thrown in together. And we've got the state split up into 7 communities. Each one of those communities has a leader for it, and they're in charge of bringing in new members, talking to the new members, and vetting those members. They set up the meetings and the trainings and get-togethers that we like to have every month. And then we'll have some statewide events. Most of the time we have the statewide events at my house, where we'll do like a whole weekend event. And we can do anything as far as our meetings and learning sessions and stuff like that. We've done everything from butcher pigs to learn how to make soap. So, and everything in between. We've done some homestead security stuff, done some solar classes, done ham radio classes, just whatever you can think of in the preparedness and homesteading aspects of what we do. We've got people that are pretty much experts in most all of that. They'll take their time to come in and like, hey, we'll set up a class to do it and invite everybody down.
Excellent. So, I love that. How long have you guys been doing this? Is this a relatively new thing, or has this been a while in the making?
It's been a couple years in the making.
Okay. So that raises the question. In your opinion, it's obvious that you think community is important.
Yes.
That's what the in your opinion, what is the hardest part about getting something started like what you're doing with Kentucky Sustainable?
The hardest part is just starting it. It's just getting. I mean, I wanted to start a YouTube channel for a while, and finally, Shelly at Two Old Crows Homestead, I met her. She joined in the group, and I was like, Shelly, I want to do a YouTube channel. I was like, but you've already got one. I said, I don't know how to do it. And she was like, I will come down to your house. We can do an intro video and do it that way. And that was the hardest part of doing the YouTube channel, was actually starting it. Mm-hmm. So the hardest part on doing anything is the actual first step. Take that first step and just do it. Yeah, when we first started, we only had a few members, and it's grown. The Facebook group right now we're pushing 900 something members, I think, on the Facebook group. So, excellent. And it's all word of mouth. I mean, it's not like we're spending money to advertise our group on Facebook whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So it's all just people just find us. One of the members will tell their friends. It's like, hey, I'm in this group, and it grows organically. But that's the hardest part, is that, and it's like some people have said, don't go looking across the state for somebody like-minded. Start in your backyard, or start, in your neighborhood. Start down the street. I mean, you might have 2 or 3 people within 5 miles of you that think just alike, but you're looking, 100 miles away. It's like, look right there in your backyard, and I guarantee you can find some people within 5 miles of you.
And that's one of the reasons why we pushed the potluck thing. We had never, we honestly, we've been trying to build a community for years, and we had never thought about doing a potluck. And somebody here locally put together a potluck with like 30 families in it, and it's just grown. And we did one for Thanksgiving and ended up, oh gosh, there were 75, 80 people there, and we're always pushing freesteading because it's a great way and a great tool to use for creating communities like that. But you guys did that before anything like freesteading came along. You said you did it all by word of mouth, which is amazing to me. It's just phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, and it's crazy. And talking about your neighbors, I've got a guy, no kidding, is half a mile from me that I would have never met probably without doing this group. And he ended up joining the Facebook group, and we got to talking, and I kind of told him where I live, and he kind of told me, and I was like, dude, I know exactly where you live. So, I mean, he's literally a half a mile from me. And I've driven by his house, no telling how many times over the years, and never knew who lived there.
Right. The last potluck, we're at the potluck, and there's a guy I've worked with this guy for the last year. He works in a different department from me where I work, but I see him on a regular basis. I had no idea that he was homesteading and he was like-minded. But we ran into each other at the potluck, and it's like, hey, what are you doing here? He said, what are you doing here? Well, and it's amazing. And then like the whole freesteading thing, we did the camp out last fall, talking with people on freesteading. They showed up there. They lived within 15, 20 minutes of where we lived before we moved out to Kansas. They lived over on the Missouri side. And both of them, there were two guys, and they both said, they were both like, hey, we've been looking for somebody for years. I was like, well, where were you guys a year ago whenever I was looking for a community and a reason to stay in Missouri?
Yeah.
So, I agree with you 100%. The hardest part is just starting.
Yeah, it's taking that first step. I mean, you can sit there on the couch and think about it all day long, and you're not going to do anything until you take that first step. And yeah, it's going to be scary. You might fall on your ass the first time, but if you get back up and keep on going, it's fine. One of the guys was at Dog Creek Farms. Jake is in here. I'm pretty sure Jake's in here. Jake lives in Indiana. And he contacted me. He was like, hey, I know this is really just a Kentucky group, but I've seen your YouTube channel. I've seen what you're doing. I want to start an Indiana chapter. And I was like, okay. I was like, come on. He's in our group with us. He's in our smaller group. Jake's coming down next month. We're going to hang out. He's going to help us butcher a pig, hang out with us. And we're going to start. He wants to start in Indiana sustainable living, I guess is what he might call it. But he's going to start it. And he is like, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Can you help me? And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll help you with it. That's no problem at all. So there's that. So there's going to be, I guess, an Indiana chapper pretty soon.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, I'm going to say he's losing one member because Indiana Mike is moving out here sometime. They just got some property and they're moving out here. So he's going to lose at least one good member.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I just the whole building community thing is awesome. Now I wanted to ask you. So
one other thing about building a community and doing business with each other. We have an online spreadsheet for our members in the group, and each member can go in and edit it. And like Shelly, if Shelly makes soap to sell, Shelly can put in, I've got soap to sell, and she can put what she's got and how much it is. So if somebody looks in there and like, hey, I would rather buy my soap from Shelly, you can contact Shelly, email her and say, hey, Shelly, I want such and such soap. If one of the guys has half a beef he wants to sell to you, if he's got half a beef ready, he can put, I've got a half beef and this is the price. So you can do business with the members that are in there instead of going out to Kroger or, to Walmart buying your soap and your beef.
Okay. Now that begs the question. How is that being hosted that people can get into it and they consider using Google Docs? Or you got some sort of special website set up?
It's a Google Doc right now. We're working on our website. One of the guys is real good into IT, and he's working on our website to where essentially we're going to have a website with forums in there. And you've seen a forum before. We can have different. You could have just like a general chat forum. You could have ham radio forum. You could have a canning forum and stuff like that, to where all the members can go in there and just our members could go in there and talk about different things. But right now that spreadsheet's on a Google Doc.
Okay. Okay. And I gotta. You're not the first person that I've heard that their group is doing that. I know a couple other homesteader slash prepper people that are doing groups exactly like that, and it's kind of the direction that freesteading is going too. Um, it's just, and what I think is really neat about this entire movement that's going on across the country is you were talking about it being organic. It's gaining speed and it's growing exponentially across the country. More and more people are seeing channels like yours, and they're going, "Hey, we can do this. We can do the exact same thing. We could do it locally, and we can find like-minded people."
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's just going to make the homesteading community way stronger in the long run. You
Oh
know,
yeah, for sure.
because your group's going to be working with Dog Creek Farms Group in Indiana, and you're going to be sharing ideas, and you're going to be sharing resources, and then y'all will connect with other people, and it's just going to grow. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and it's not. A lot of people want to do the whole lone wolf thing. They're like, "Oh, I've got my beans, bullets, and band-aids, and I'm gonna grab my SKS and run to the woods." That little sticker that everybody does. It's yeah, we're a Kentucky group, but if there's a group in Indiana that we want to talk to, yeah, I mean we'll link up and talk and be a part of them. If there's one in Tennessee, yeah, let's do it. If there's one in Virginia, West Virginia, yeah, let's do it because that just expands your network of people that you can talk to, and that are all like minded. I mean, I talked to Porterhouse and Teal. Porter, he's in stinking California, but I talk to him all the time. So, I mean, just because you're not in Kentucky doesn't mean that we can't be of value to each other.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things that our circle, our entire group, not our entire group, but a lot of our group are on YouTube channels now. We've got our channels, and we did it as a group because we wanted to share our experiences with everybody. But we're starting to reach out and touch base with all these other circles within Kansas, and I would really like to see within a year Kansas to have something like what you've got going on.
yeah.
It's a relatively new concept here, slowly, slowly coming along. You know,
Oh yeah, and I mean, I think every state ought to do something like that. I mean, it's a great deal. I mean, I know there's other groups in Kentucky. I haven't talked to any of those, but I'd be willing to talk to them. If there's somebody on here that's got another group in Kentucky, if they want to talk, by all means, email me and we can start communicating about it.
and your
So
email is on the about page on your web uh,
yes,
YouTube channel,
yes,
right?
it's on there. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely great. Um, One of the things I found very interesting, and we were talking about this before the broadcast started, that you did a series of videos with this storm that was rolling in that was pretty pretty close in concept to what I was thinking about. The preparations that you did for this storm, very practical, and you did a great job of sharing it with people. Um, is that something that you're trying to do more of? Is you're trying to share your experiences through your YouTube channel? So like we were talking about, you've only been at it for what, 4 months now, 5 months?
yeah, 4 or 5 months, something like that. Yeah, I yeah, I would like everybody to see that homesteading is a lot of work and doing that. I mean, I'm a contractor. That's my 9 to 5 job. That's how I make my living is doing kitchen, bathroom remodels, stuff like that. So I just homestead in the afternoon and on the weekends and when
Mhm.
I've got other free time. So it's not my source of income. Uh, but yeah, I want people to see that yeah, you can do this and you don't have to be on the homestead, all the time. You can still have a full-time job and homestead stuff. And if you set it up, it kind of goes back to the permaculture and setting your stuff up in zones, which I try to be as efficient as I can in my construction business. So it kind of naturally migrated, when I was setting my homestead up in the farm and everything. I don't want to walk all the way across just to feed something and do this. So I've set it up as efficient as I can. and show people that you can do this. It literally, for me to feed my pigs, my chickens, cows, and sheep and dogs, if I don't have to fill all the water troughs up, I can do that in less than 30 minutes. And boom. I mean, I could do that before I go into work in the morning if I really want to. So,
And
and
I
it
think
doesn't
that's
take,
great.
and maybe another 30 minutes if I have to fill everybody's water troughs up.
Oh
So,
yeah.
in an hour every day, you can take care of all your animals, get them fed, make sure they're fine. So it doesn't take, you don't have to be out there till midnight every night taking care of animals and stuff. So, but
In warm weather, it takes me an hour a day, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening. In the wintertime, it takes a little bit more because I gotta schlep buckets of water because of frozen.
yeah.
We only got one outdoor spigot, and it's flat, so the hose always freezes. The only way I can get it empty is having a air pressure thing to blow it out every day,
Yes.
and that's just too much work. So I'm hauling buckets every morning when it's cold like it is.
Oh yeah. I mean, when it's been hot this summer, we were filling troughs up twice a day. I mean, I would fill those things up in the morning and I would come back and they're bone dry. And I'm like, holy cow. Yeah. So I saw the water bill and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Oh, it hurt. It hurt this summer. We've got two 50-gallon troughs and they're empty every single day.
Oh yeah. And a lot of the stuff, I mean, I watched YouTube to get ideas on doing rain catchment systems, on doing solar and stuff like that, and learned a lot of it from watching YouTube. And I'm like, I've learned this stuff and I've got a knowledge of construction. So a lot of the stuff, I've got some videos that I've shot I hadn't put up yet of me building. I built a ham radio room down in my shop. So to where I can have all my ham radio equipment sitting down there. It's climate controlled. It's got an off-grid bathroom in it that runs on rainwater and a composting toilet.
Oh, nice.
I've done a little bit of video on it. So I'd like people to see some of the projects that I'm doing, and maybe it will spur them to be like, hey, I could do that. That's not that hard. I mean, if you want a composting toilet in your shop, you can do that in a stinking afternoon if you got a little bit of woodworking knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So people make it out to be some kind of magical something. It's a stinking box with a bucket and sawdust that you poop in. So it's like,
dude, I know people that have lived for years on a toilet like that, and that's one of the things we've got the composting stuff, and we were going to do an off-grid cabin at somebody else's property before circumstances put us here. But I'm like you. I learned all that stuff on YouTube. I picked the brains of some people. Tag and I are pretty good friends, and I pick his brains all the time because he's living he's got it completely off grid.
oh, yeah.
And so like you were talking about, why reinvent the wheel, and you talk about sustainability, and on a personal level, if you don't mind talking about it, how far down that road have you gotten to be modernly self-sufficient and sustainable on your property?
We can raise pretty much all our own meat. If we really, really wanted to, we could raise pretty much all our own meat right now. I'm not a huge big vegetable person. I do a lot of keto, and I'm just a meat eater. So I suck at growing vegetables, honestly. So I mean, I can grow. It's like I tell everybody, I can grow the hell out of some meat, but I can't grow a green bean to save my life. So. But as far as meat wise, we butcher our own chickens, our own lambs, our own pigs, and our own cattle. So everything's processed here at my place. So we've got probably 4 pigs. We've got about 4 pigs to do. Probably won't do any chickens for a little while, and then we've got a beef to do, and it'll all be processed and bagged and done right here on the property. So. As far as self-sufficient that way, yes, it's pretty self-sufficient. We can take care of all that right on property. I'm working, and I've talked to Billy from Permapastures a little bit about some fodder trees and doing the tree hay and stuff like that, and growing some more of our own stuff to feed our animals. So, I mean, yes, we're buying hay. We feed hay in the wintertime just because I don't have enough pasture and enough room or enough stuff to stockpile here on our property. So, yeah, we're buying hay. In that aspect, we're not self-sufficient. But in a grid down situation, a lot of the land around me can be used for pasture. So if we really had to, so I kind of look at it at that. Power wise, I'm working on some small scale solar stuff. I'm not going to have near the solar system what Tag has or anybody like that.
I don't think very many people have that big a solar system.
Oh yeah, it's going to be. I look at it as I want enough electricity from solar to where I can run a small refrigerator and a small freezer and some lights and some comms equipment is what I want. Yeah. And I really thought about doing a bigger one, but one of our guys in the group, he was like, why not build smaller systems with redundancy? He said, so if one goes out, you've still got 4 other systems that you can use. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that makes a heck of a lot of sense. And I mean, that's essentially a backup to your backup to your backup. So instead of having, one 10 kW system with a whole horde of batteries in one spot, do 5 2K systems. I mean, yeah, it's going to cost you a little bit more money, but then you've got a backup to a backup to a backup.
Well, and that's my thought. I'm going forward. We were going to put one system in for the entire property. I decided that instead of doing that, I'm going to put a system on each one of the buildings and let them be self-sufficient solar wise.
Yeah.
We're still going to run electricity out to the outbuildings and everything, but as a backup, I'm with you. If something happens, we need to be able to not rely on the grid.
Yeah. And my ham radio room that I built down in the shop in that bathroom, the lights and the ceiling fan are 12 volt light and ceiling fan. So they'll run off deep cycle marine batteries. So we're going to do a battery bank down there. Ham radio equipment is already running on 12 volts. So I've got it to where I can run my ham radio equipment, my lights, and my fan down there on 12 volts. We're going to put a few solar panels on the shop, and then that will be pretty much 100% off grid because our water for the bathroom comes through filters and rainwater. So nice. We've got ceramic filters to where you can turn the shower on, take a shower, and it's filtered water. You can go to the sink and get filtered water that you can drink right out of the tap.
Okay. With that said, somebody in chat has zero infrastructure like that. If you were to give them one piece of advice right now, what would you tell them about getting started with the sustainability aspect of it all?
Do a lot of homework and figure out exactly. Too many people, and I'll say this too. This is a perfect thing. Too many people want to go big and have too much stuff. I see people that buy generators. They go out and buy the biggest freaking generator, and they're like, I'm going to run the whole damn house with this generator. And you're like, dude, you know how much fuel that freaking thing burns? In a sustainability and a grid down situation, you're not going to have freaking 3 TVs on. You're not going to have your HVAC system running. You're not going to be cooking. You're not going to be washing your clothes all the time. Don't buy a 20 kW generator. Buy a 6,000 watt generator and learn to live within your means, really, is kind of the thing. I mean, I don't have a 20 kW generator to run my whole house. My biggest generator is a 7,000 watt generator that'll run a quarter of the house. Mm-hmm. So, but look at what you really need, not what you want, is the big thing. Yeah, I would love to have a 20 kW generator to run my whole house and, a 5,000 gallon buried propane tank, but that's just not feasible. So look at what you need to survive and don't, I mean, yeah, well, it's just like trucks. Yeah, I could go buy a brand new $100,000 King Ranch and look cool as all get out going to job sites, but my 2015 half-ton truck does great going to a job site and pulling my trailers. Yep. And I don't have a $2,000 a month note on it either. So
exactly.
look, I mean, food, water, and shelter. Start out with that. Have a way for your house. Rain catchment. I would start with a rain catchment system. You're going to die faster of dehydration than anything else. Well, you need some heat. So, heat right there, especially this time of year. Have a way to heat your house that's sustainable. Wood stove is going to be the best thing. Sustainability for that. Start with your food, water, and shelter. Have those. It doesn't take a lot to do a rainwater system. And to be honest, that kind of gets into and I've had to debate with people. It's like, well, I've got an asphalt roof. Okay, that's fine. All kinds of people have grown up drinking off an asphalt roof. And they're like, why? They get stuck in the weeds on it. It's like, well, I read this one study that you're going to get cancer if you drink off an asphalt roof. That's cool. I'll take my chances of getting cancer in 30 years than dying in 3 days of dehydration.
Exactly.
So I told one guy that, and he was like, damn, that makes some sense. So, but and actually there's a study, I think it was Texas A&M they did a real scientific study on asphalt roofs, and if there's carcinogenic stuff coming off of it. They said brand new roofs will leach some of that, but if the roof is like over 5 years old, all that stuff is gone by now.
Mm-hmm.
So
well,
I've got rainwater catchment set up on an asphalt roof right now.
At our old house, we had that, and it's just like using tires for garden beds. If the tire is more than 3 or 4 years old, everything is off gassed, and you're not going to run any problems.
Yeah. And sometimes people get wrapped around the axles and too deep in the weeds on stuff and overthink it. It's like, you're going to make some mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes on stuff. Make a freaking mistake and move on about your business. Learn from it. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, people get too deep in the weeds on stuff. Just, well, I've got it set up right now. There's a hotel in town, a big hotel that has a lot of conventions. I talk to the chef, and I get all their scrap food from them. The day it was right before Christmas, he called me and he's like, hey, I've got some stuff from a banquet we had. He's like, bring about 8 5-gallon buckets and I'll give you all the scraps. I was like, all right, cool. I showed up and I was like, dude, this is going to be way more than 8 buckets. I ended up filling 32 5-gallon buckets with scrap food from that Christmas banquet that they had. So, I mean, those buckets probably weighed 40 pounds a piece. So you're looking at 1,200 pounds of scrap food that I fed my pigs and chickens. Because I've got I saw Billy's chicken tractor on steroids. We named mine a chicken tractor on meth. So, it's the chicken tractor on meth. I mean, I feed the chickens pretty much for free, and they're making me 1.5 yards of compost every week. So I'm getting free compost for 2 hours of work a week on flipping compost. My youngest son, his school, I talked to them. We've started a pilot program with them. They've got all the kids, the food that they don't eat, they put in 5-gallon buckets for me, and I go and pick it up every day. So every day that they're in school, I feed my chickens for free with the food scraps. So
1,200 pounds of food, that would feed my chickens for 3 months.
Yeah,
easily.
And it literally only cost me 3 hours of my time to take the food off the trays and scoop it into buckets.
See, that's awesome. And we've been meaning to do that. Billy turned us on. I sat on his class at the homesteading festival in Hannibal that Doug and Stacy put on. Yeah. And he talked about that. And I had heard that talk before, but seeing him give it in person was completely different. And we're going to try to set something like that up at the beginning of the year. I've talked to a couple people around here, and it just nothing ever came from it for some reason. I don't know what the deal is. It's I guess old school farming community. They're not thinking outside the box like that.
Oh yeah, I mean my chickens this afternoon. My chickens ate dinner rolls, brown gravy, mashed potatoes, and carrots. Is what my chickens ate for dinner.
Nice.
And the pigs, I ended up feeding the pigs mashed potatoes, gravy, and grilled chicken breast.
Oh, but there's some happy pigs too, weren't
Oh,
they?
and there's nothing left in the morning when you go down there. There's not a thing left. I mean, hell, and they were going to throw all this stuff away. It was all going to go in the dumpster. And
Yeah.
he called me and he's like, "Hey, come get it." So that's one of the things, you think outside the box, do stuff like that. I mean, it saved me. I've not fed the chickens or the pigs. Well, I hadn't fed the chickens commercial feed in a while, just because of my youngest son's school doing that program. And I'm going to go in there and talk to the kids and explain to them what they're doing, the reason that they're putting their scrap food in buckets, and what I'm doing with it. So, and then the compost that we get off of it, we put it on our garden and in our food forest. We planted the first phase of our food forest this fall and planted it. So all the compost that we're making right now is going this spring. It'll be put around the trees, the strawberries, the blueberries, and all that.
Okay, so you did a video on the food forest.
Yes.
For people that haven't seen that, you want to give a brief overview of that entire process, the way you did? Because I thought that was really, anybody can do that, and you did a really good job of explaining it.
Yeah, I went. It was the day before Self-Reliance Festival in Camden, Tennessee. Billy with Permapastures, him and his wife put on, they called it the Guild class, and essentially it was what to plant around your fruit trees and to do a food forest. And I went to it. I was like, this is freaking cool. So Shelly with Two Old Crows Homestead, she came down the next day for Self-Reliance Festival. And I told her, I said, we need to do a food forest. And I said, let's do a food forest at my house. I said, I already have the fruit trees planted. And she was like, okay, let's do it. So we got together on what we wanted to put in there, made an order of everything we wanted. We had a little hiccup on getting the blueberries and the strawberries. So I was hustling around, and I actually found two guys. One guy grows tons of blueberry plants every year. I found him. He was 15 miles from me. And then I found a guy that had strawberries that's about 25 miles from me. We actually got them cheaper than ordering them online. Got everything. We had, I did a whole big invite. Whoever wants to come to my house, we're having a food forest class. It's free. The only thing it's going to cost you is gas to drive to my house and a side dish for lunch. So literally it cost them gas money and a side of baked beans for us to have lunch with. And we had 15 or 16 people. We did about an hour and a half in my shop on a whiteboard, showing them everything. Shelly did a great job of printing out a brochure for everybody that had everything, what we're planting, why we're planting it, different species you can plant together. Went over the whiteboard stuff, and then everybody grabbed shovels and we started putting wood chips down, cardboard. We showed them how to put the cardboard down, how to put the wood chips on, everything from grass, from covering the grass to actually planting strawberry plants and putting compost on top of it. And it was an all day thing. And we put in, I don't know how many blueberry plants. I know we put in over 200 strawberry plugs in there, probably close to 5 pounds of garlic, and no telling how many daffodils and herbs and stuff like that we did. And
I think that's so awesome because, you got a food forest out of it, but more importantly, those 16, 17 people, they walked away from your property knowing how to do it. And anybody in the chat, if you're looking at building a food forest or anything like that on your property, this is a great way to make it happen. Share your experience, teach people how to do it, get them to help you, and they'll go out and they'll find other groups to come help them. And it's all self-perpetuating, which is awesome.
Yeah, and it was great. I mean, people walked away, and I had a couple of people tell me, it's like, I want to do this at my house now. It's kind of intimidating when you say a food forest. People are like, holy crap, what is that? And it's like, it's not. It's pretty simple. I mean, people could go back after that day and plant a food forest at their house from just what they learned that Saturday at my house. So, and I told most of the people were close around me. So I told them where they could source. They're like, where'd you get the blueberries? Where'd you get the strawberries? And I'm like, here's the guy's phone numbers that I got them from. And they're like, okay, I don't know. I know Shelly put part of her food forest in, and I don't know if anybody else has done anything yet or not. But we've got plans. Probably in the spring, we'll do another food forest class because I'm planning on going down one side of my driveway and just doing a whole food forest all the way down the driveway.
Yeah. We were supposed to put food forests in this year, and circumstances just didn't work out. We're a year behind right now, but next spring we're gonna start hitting that really hard. It's just... Okay, so we've talked about where you were, and we've talked about where you are now. In your opinion, where do you see the future of homesteading going from here on out? As not only for you, but just in general, for people in general, where do you see it going with everything that's going on in the world and everything people are trying to build? What do you see that happening?
I don't know. I think some of the people are fair weather homesteaders that when it looks bad, they're like, oh my gosh, they're doing it on fear. They're like, the regime we've got in office right now, they're sending us down the road to hell in a handbasket quick. And a lot of people are scared about it. They're like, oh my gosh, I've got to go buy some land. I've got to get this set up. And then in 2 years, when we have another election, if a different regime gets in, they're like, oh, they're going to save us. And then they're like, we don't need this. We're going to move back to our apartment and go back into the matrix. So there's going to be some land for sale. There's going to be animals for sale. But if that happens, because people are fair weather preppers and fair weather homesteaders, if it continues down the path we're on now, there's going to keep on being people getting into homesteading. That they want to get out of the matrix. They want to unplug. So no matter what happens with me, it's a lifestyle with me. I don't, there's a lot of people homesteading and prepping and being in the preparedness stuff is something they do on the weekends and for fun. They're like, oh, I'm going to go to Gander Mountain, or I'm going to go to Cabela's and get some new stuff for my bug out bag. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, it's mental masturbation is really what it is. I mean, it's like, the 10 best knives for your bug out bag. It's like, dude, I don't watch that crap. I'm like, I want to watch Billy talking about, tree hay and stuff. That's what I watch. So it's a lifestyle with me. I live this every day. I don't go build bug out bags for fun and watch those stupid videos, but there's too many people that play the fantasy of it, in my opinion, that aren't super serious and aren't living it. So I think there'll be some people that they like the fantasy of it. Oh, what's those people that have $10,000 chicken coops on Facebook, that they buy. You've seen those, like you see there's Facebook groups with people that have freaking chicken coops nicer than my house.
Okay. I had a $17,000 chicken coop, but to be fair, we were doing it for commercial purposes.
Well, now that's different.
That chicken coop that burned down was $17,000 in materials and animals and stuff. So yeah,
but now you were going to make money off of it. You didn't have a $17,000 chicken coop for half a dozen hens.
Oh, this is correct. This is correct.
So I'm talking about the people that buy like one of these she sheds, and then they go get an interior decorator to pick out the paint colors for it. They come in and epoxy the insides of it, and it's got cedar shutters and freaking central heat and air and curtains and all that. And it's like, dude, you spent $10,000 for 6 chickens.
Well, and okay, I'm not gonna. This is gonna sound like I'm throwing shade, but I'm honestly not.
Did you have curtains in it?
Some of these larger channels, they give this image. They do a really good job of marketing themselves, and they give this image of homesteading being glamorous. And you look at their property, and it's like, God, it's immaculate, dude. My place is a mess. On its best day, it's a complete mess. And I can't compete like with channels like that. And I think it actually, in the long run, those channels like that really hurt people trying to start out, because they look at these channels and they're like, I'm not doing it right because I'm not like them.
Oh yeah, I mean my wife complains every day when I walk in the house. She's like, "You're tracking crap in. I just vacuumed," and I'm like, "Sorry." I was like, "What do you want me to do?" I told her one time, I was like, "That just gives you more stuff to do," and I ran out of the house after that. So, and I stayed down in the shop for an hour or two. But yeah, and I mean, now a lot of the YouTube channels, the big ones, they just show you what they want to see, what they want you to see. They've got one little part of their property that's totally, manicured and immaculate, but they don't turn around and show you the feed lot in the background.
You heard the same story I heard.
Yes, I've heard that story a couple times.
Yes. Okay.
So
we're not gonna name any names, but yes, I heard that story too.
Yeah, I mean, my place, I've got brush piles where we push some trees over. I've got brush piles. I've got 4 or 5 trailers sitting out here. I've got 2 dozen IBC totes sitting by the shop. I got my tractor and my skid loader parked in front of the shop. There's blue barrels sitting in front of the shop. Yeah, I mean, it's not near Sanford and Son, but by God, it gets close sometimes.
And it's always muddy.
Yes.
Even when it's dry, even in the middle of the drought, it's muddy.
Yeah, I mean, my youngest son, we had a bunch of trees. I was working on a job, and a boy was cutting a bunch of trees, and I told him, I was like, "Can I have these trees?" And he goes, "Yeah." He said, "Bring your trailer down, I'll load them." So I brought all this firewood and everything. Went and got a bunch of it milled. And my son's like, he's 7. He's like, "I've got a lumber yard down there." So he strung freaking slab lumber all over the place and built little huts and camps and forts and everything. So down there by the driveway, there's just lumber strewn out, slab lumber strewn out. And I'm like, let him do it. I was like, I don't care. So,
dude, I'm not going to lie. When we first started, I've got a little bit of undiagnosed OCD, and everything had to be in its place. But after a couple of years, I was like, you know what? The chickens don't care. They just don't care. So why should I?
Oh, yeah. Well, the funniest thing, one guy, I was buying some sheep, and I was talking to him, and we were talking about registered sheep and all this kind of stuff, and talking about the animals don't care. He goes, "I've never bought any registered sheep in my life." He said, "The damn things can't read, so why they need papers?" I said that works. So after that, I was like, if we're going to eat you, we're not going to have registered livestock. So
yeah, the new puppy's going to be registered just because somebody else paid for it.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to go ahead, just in case we decide to breed her down the road. I mean, that'll bring a little bit extra money in, but I'm with you. Why pay for all that stuff? It's a waste of money.
Oh yeah, and it doesn't taste any better.
Nope, it doesn't.
So
okay, so now talking about tasting better, that brings us to another subject. Having a business off of the homestead. You said you're a contractor by trade.
Yeah.
Are you building one of these alternative economies off the homestead? Are you trying to make the homestead make money for you?
No, not really. I just don't. I can make more money doing contracting than I could ever make off doing anything with the homestead. So it might be bad to say, but I can make more money remodeling a bathroom for somebody than I ever could on doing stuff from the homestead. It's just it's not there. Okay. So I did it just for the sustainability part for my family. I've got people all the time ask me, they're like, "Hey, can I buy half a pig from you? Or can I buy half a beef from you when you process it?" And I'm like, "No, we're probably not going to sell it because I want it. It's mine. I've raised it. It's going in my freezer. And I hate to, it might sound bad, but I don't need the money to sell half a cow. I've got money coming in from my business, and that cow is mine that I've raised, so I want to keep it for myself."
But with the sustainability, you've got the option that if the contracting goes away, you've got the option to go that direction, though, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we could do that. We'll usually sell a lot of our lambs every year that we have, just because I'm really the only one. Me and my brother are the only ones that really like lamb. So I wind up taking those and selling them. So we'll make a little bit of money off it, but nothing to write home about.
Okay.
And I'll probably never make money off the homestead, honestly, just because I've not really set it up that way. I've set it up to provide for our family as far as food is what I've looked at.
You may never make money, but you'll never starve either, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the end goal. That everybody should be moving in that direction.
Oh yeah, and I mean we could close the gate and hang out here for quite a bit with all the meat we've got on the hoof right now. Yeah. So, and that's what I wanted to set it up as, is if you could not get to the grocery store, we've got enough stuff stored and enough stuff, in the pipeline and on the hoof that we can make it through some pretty lean times. And I think right now we're still in the good times. And I was watching Pastor Joe Fox, Viking Preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching some of his videos, and he's got another channel. It's Shofar Mountain. That's his church. He was talking about the famine in Egypt. You got 7 years of good times, then you got 7 years of famine. And he was like, we're still in the good times right now. You can still go buy 100 pounds of rice if you want to. And he's like, you need to stock up now on stuff. So, we've got a lot of stock food and stuff like that, but we've got a way to replenish that. We can't make beef ravioli or anything like that, Chef Boyardee, but we've got the kids like some of it. So we've got some of it, but your food's going to change. So it's having a lot of stock food, but also having a way to replenish that.
Okay. You mentioned Chef Boyardee. Just so happens that I freeze dried some Chef Boyardee the last couple of days. You just got a freeze dryer. How long did you get your freeze dryer?
I got it, I think, a week or two before Christmas.
Okay. So you've had it. I know you've run a couple of cycles through it because you did videos.
Yeah.
What's your opinions of the harvest rate? First off, what size did you get? And then what's your opinion of the freeze drying thing?
I went ahead and bought the large size is what I got, because I'm like, let's just go ahead and go big or go home kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I bought the large one. I got the Premier pump. It's the Premier oil pump is what I've got. I like it. I ran the very first batch of stuff I ran was browned ground beef. Ran it. I didn't pre-freeze it, and that stuff took freaking forever. Mm-hmm. I ran raw frozen hamburgers, and it cut the cycle time down it cut the cycle time 10 hours off the cycle time pretty easy. Yeah. If it's pre-frozen. So I've done everything I've done meat wise has been beef so far. I've got some pork loins thawing out right now where I can slice those into pork chops from some of our pigs that we killed last year. And I'm going to freeze dry pork chops tomorrow. So, and of course, my wife and kids wanted to do Starburst and Junior Mints and Skittles and all that crap. So I told them, I was like, you've got 2 cycles on it, and then we're going to do some real stuff. So we freeze dried.
And the cool thing about the candies, you don't have to freeze it. You just run it through a 4 to 6 hour drying cycle, and it's done. You don't have to do the entire cycle.
Yeah, and it turned out it's weird what it does to some of that stuff. But I told them, I'm like, we bought this thing. We're not going to be running a bunch of candy and crap. We're going to be running meat and produce and stuff like that through it. So how did Chef Boyardee turn out?
Well, it turned out well. The problem is it was towards the end of the expiration date in the cans. And what happens when they sit in the can too long is they start separating the bottom from the top. Okay. So when they freeze dried, they came apart. And
Uh,
and other than that, I mean, they taste okay. I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna do a video on why we freeze dried them, and then reconstituting one of the batches so everybody can see how it worked. But we've had our freeze dryer for 6-7 years now.
really.
We got it used, and we've had to put some money into it, but we've been using it, and we're actually using it for a side business.
Okay.
Jules says, "Oh yeah, freeze dried crack is super highly addictive." She's talking about the Skittles.
Oh yeah, those things. I ate a few of them, and I'm like, you've got to hide these things because I'm going to eat the whole bag of them. I was like, I don't need this crap.
Yep.
So,
And as much as I like the Skittles, the Starbursts, the way they turned out, the taste on the Starburst is way better than the Skittles in my book.
the best thing we freeze dried were the Werther's Original, the chewable caramel.
Ooh, we haven't done those yet.
Those things puff up to the size of a golf ball.
Oh, do they really?
Oh yeah, and I mean it was crazy the way they tasted. It was like chewing on caramel insulation kind of thing. It just like crunched in your mouth, and you're like, the first bite, it's like, this shit's gross, and then it started melting. It's like, damn, this is good.
Oh yeah.
So
that sounds like the Angela found some limited edition. They were marshmallows covered in sprinkles, but they had a little piece of yellow cake right in the middle of them. And when you freeze dried them, they blew up, but they tasted like the marshmallows out of Trix candy.
okay.
So some of the gummy bears just look weird when they come out.
Oh yeah, they look weird, and but I plan on doing a lot of meat, because meat, your protein to me is a big thing to have stored up, and we've got a bunch of freezers and stuff, and I've got backup generators to keep those running, but it's like I want to have a lot of this stuff freeze dried to where if the power does go out or is inconsistent, I don't have to worry about all my meat ruining, because I've worked too hard to raise this meat and butcher it myself to let it sit there and go bad in the freezer.
Absolutely. And in a survival situation, you know this well. In a survival situation, protein is probably the hardest thing to get.
Yes.
So
protein and fat.
Protein, exactly. Protein and fat. And you're raising your pigs, so you've got all the rendered fat off of them, and you freeze dry your protein. And I can't, folks. If you don't have a freeze dryer and you can scrape together the money to get one, I think it's well worth it.
And I was on the fence for quite a while about it, but finally I was like, I'm just going to bite the bullet and do it. If I don't buy one now, it's going to be never that I'll get one. And I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. My wife gave me her blessing, and I was like, okay, that's all I need. So I went ahead and got it, and I like it. You got to get a system down on running it and stuff like that to make it efficient. So It's not. My opinion is, yes, I dropped a good amount of change for it. I need to get the most out of it while I can. So it's run it hard. I pulled a batch out last night of burgers, and then went ahead and defrosted it. If those pork loins were thawed out enough right now for me to slice them, I would go ahead when I get off here and slice them and put them in.
Absolutely.
So, but I plan on having it running 24/7 as soon as I get my system down to make it efficient, and you don't have a day in between of figuring out. You just got to get everything ready.
I think my connection's starting to act up.
Yeah, you glitched just a little bit.
I'm gonna tell you honestly, after 4 or 5 years, you're like, yeah, a day of downtime's fine.
I'm one of these people. It's like we're going to run this thing 24/7, and we've got to figure out a system for it. And I want to get the max production out of it that I can.
Oh man, I'm telling you, ours when we first got ours, and it took us about 6 months to get it fixed because there were some problems with it when we bought it. But once we got it running properly, it ran nonstop for about 3.5 years straight.
Really?
And the only time it stopped was when I was changing the oil on it.
Wow. That's my plan, is just to have it run straight all the time and put as much stuff up as you can. So, and I mean, I've seen where guys will go ahead and cook extra food. If if they're doing chili for dinner, they'll cook, an extra batch of chili and then go ahead and stick that in the freeze dryer. I mean, it's not that much more work to fix. If you already got the kitchen messed up and you've got everything dirty making chili, go ahead and make an extra batch of it and then put that in your freeze dryer.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a lot less work to do it while you got everything dirty and everything. So I told my wife, I was like, we'll just start cooking extra and start freeze drying meals and doing that.
Well, and that was our thing. Angela can't cook for 2 people. So she's always cooking for 6, 8 people. So we've always got leftovers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and one of my friends, she does that. She's like, I will take all the leftovers. She said they'll sit in the refrigerator for 2 days, and after 2 days, she said I throw them in the freeze dryer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's what I'm going to start doing.
Absolutely, so, it's a great plan.
Hey, have you freeze dried much sausage, or is it too fatty?
With the sausage, in small amounts it'll work, but you have to get it cooked, and then you have to run it under warm water just like you do the hamburger.
Okay.
To get it done properly. If you go over about 15% fat, you're probably going to run into some problems.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll be making sausage. I think the 7th of January, that weekend, we're going to do a pig here at my house, and we'll probably grind some of that sausage and do it pretty lean because I want to freeze dry a bunch of it.
You gonna film it?
Yeah, we'll film the butchering and everything. We'll have to. I mean, it's an all day process, so it'll be kind of highly edited, so YouTube doesn't kick us off on some of that stuff.
Nobody wants to see how sausage is made. Seriously, as soon as they figure out how sausage is made, it turns them off.
Oh well, now my youngest one, he doesn't care a bit. We were butchering a beef this last winter, and he came down. And he was looking over there, and he's like, "What's that?" I was like, "That's the head." I said, "We cut the head off that cow." And he went over and looked at it, and he's like, "Can I pick it up and see it?" I was like, "I don't care." And then, of course, my wife's like, "Do not grab a hold of that cow's head and start running around with it." So, I mean, he was fine. He was like, "This is cool." And anytime I mention butchering pigs, he's like, "We're getting bacon and sausage, Dad." And I was like, "Yes, we are." So
you're raising them right, man.
And he told me, he was like, your sausage is way better than what you can buy in the store. And I'm like, that was a huge compliment. I was like, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So. Anybody out there, you don't have to butcher your own animals to make sausage. Seriously, find the recipe and do it yourself. It just, like Jason said, it tastes way better. You can make it exactly to your taste. You're not worried about what the butcher is putting into it or what the producers are putting into it. Okay.
Yeah. Buy Boston butts and grind Boston butts up. I've seen so many people do that. And I tell you, the recipe that we use for our sausage is Tennessee Pride's copycat recipe. And I think there's seven things in it. And if you've got a decent pantry, you've got those 7 things in your pantry already. Mm-hmm. So, and if anybody wants to know what it is, I've got it saved upstairs. If somebody wants to know what it is, email me and I will send you a copy of it. So it's literally, I think 6 or 7 ingredients is all that's in there. And it tastes darn near like Tennessee Pride.
Yep. Easy to do, man. Super easy to do.
Only
thing you have to invest in is a good grinder.
Yeah. And curing bacon is not that hard. What we do with our bacon, we only use salt and brown sugar as a cure on our bacon. Mm-hmm. And let it cure for 14 to 15 days. Pull it out, wash it off, dry it off, and then I want to build a smokehouse. I was supposed to build a smokehouse this summer, but just didn't get around to it. But we smoke our bacon. I've got a big offset wood burner smoker, and we can keep it low enough that we'll smoke it at about 100 degrees for 5 to 6 hours. It gets enough smoke after 5 to 6 hours, and then we pull it off, rinse it off, and then slice it.
We've got a video on making that. In fact, we've got a pork belly in the refrigerator right now, brining.
Oh yeah, and it's the best freaking bacon ever.
Absolutely.
So it will flat out spoil you from eating anything from the grocery store.
Oh, and even the taste aside, the price with the price of bacon now, I mean, what is it, $11 a pound of bacon now? You
Yeah, something like that.
get a pork belly and do everything yourself, and you're paying $3 a pound for bacon.
Oh yeah, I mean it's crazy what the pricing on a lot of this stuff is, and I mean it's not that hard. You do it in a refrigerator. I mean that's how we cure ours. If it's, I mean, I'd try not to do it right now with the temperatures outside and stuff. It's just easier, doing it in a refrigerator.
Right.
So, but if we didn't have refrigeration, we butcher all our stuff with the weather. I don't like butchering when it's too warm. I mean, you can get by with a chicken or something like that, or even a lamb, but anything big, we wait until the weather's the right temperature to do it. So until I build my walk-in cooler, I'm going to build a walk-in cooler sometime.
Yep, that's on our list. I'm working on I started on the pantry this week, so hopefully we'll get the pantry done, then I can start worrying about this other stuff. Okay, we've been at it for an hour. I wanted to talk to something else with you.
All right.
Originally, we had touched base because of hunting.
Yes.
I want to know what the hunting is like in Kentucky.
It's a cross between the Redneck Olympics and Mennonites that can't shoot. It's pretty much what it is.
Really?
Yes. The Mennonites around here cannot shoot to save their lives. I mean, that, and they kill every freaking thing. It doesn't matter. It's buck, doe, or embryo. They shoot it.
Really?
Yeah. And then you've got boys that, they've got their grandpa's 30-06 that they've had for 60 years, and they shoot 2 rounds through it, and they're like, yep, it's sighted in. And they go out and they try to, they just don't know what they're doing. I've kind of quit hunting the last couple of years just because I stay so busy at my house, and then with my work, it's like I just don't have time to do it. But we hunted a lot in college. That was high school and college. That was my big thing. I would tell my college professors when I was at Western, I told them, I was like, gun season is coming up. I won't be here for 10 days. Can I have my assignments? And the first couple of times they laughed at me. It was the engineering professors I told, and they laughed at me, and I didn't show up for 10 days. And I came back, and they were like, you were serious, weren't you? And I was like, yeah, it's a heart attack. I was like, it's deer season. I'm not coming to freaking school. So, But yeah, I mean, we would go, me and all my fraternity brothers would go hunting. I mean, all the time. We would leave the fraternity house and go up to my uncle's place and just hunt pretty much all day. I mean, we had a hell of a time and some funny stuff deer hunting out there.
Oh yeah. Well, and I used to take the entire week off because in Missouri, the opening day of firearm season is on a Saturday, and so we would just take the entire week off, and we would sit out there. And quite honestly, I got spoiled because we had a really good hunting spot. We had a permanent blind. Actually, it was a stand. It was a 10 by 10 house on top of stilts, basically.
Yeah.
But I got spoiled. We moved out here to Kansas, and in the last 2 years, I've got to hunt for about 6 hours. It's driving me nuts. And Kansas is weird. You can hunt over feeders during firearm season, and in Missouri, man, 2 weeks. 2 weeks before the season starts, your feeders go away. You can't bait them or anything.
See, in Kentucky, we can do that with deer. I mean, you can go out there right as you're walking to your stand to pour corn out, fill your feeder up, whatever, and hunt over feeders, hunt over baited areas. Now with turkey, you can't. Everything has to be removed 30 days prior to hunting turkeys. Mm-hmm. So, and they do that in the springtime because there's some kind of fungus or something that will get on the corn if it gets wet, and it'll kill the turkeys when they eat it.
Right.
So, But yeah, everything else, I mean, yeah, guys have feeders, corn piles. One of the best things, we would take the biggest things of peanut butter and put them in the ground, bury them in the ground, and the deer would come up and just eat the snot out of the peanut butter all the time and just shoot them while they're eating Jif.
Oh my God. Okay.
That or we'd take we'd stop at the feed mill and get a 5-gallon bucket of molasses and hang it on the tree and poke a hole in it, and the molasses would go down the trunk of the tree, and they'd come and lick a tree in half almost, eating that molasses.
I had a recipe that was peanut butter, Dr. Pepper, and molasses, and you boiled it up, and then you poured it into a bucket, and you poured it over a dead stump.
Yeah.
And they would eat that stump down to the ground.
Oh yeah. And I'll tell you one of the biggest things. An old guy told me. He said, take vanilla extract and spray it around, and the deer will smell that, and they'll come in to find out what it is.
Oh, really? I've never heard of that.
And I've sprayed vanilla extract, and the deer will come in running like, what is this? So.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to give that a try, because I saw all kinds of deer before firearm season, and then as soon as it started, they went away. And I know people shot deer because I could hear them, but they just were not traveling across my property.
Really?
So you said you haven't hunted for a couple of years. Did you used to use it to put meat in the freezer?
Yeah, I used to kill a couple deer every year and put them in the freezer. And it just, part of it is, like I said, I just stay so busy, and I'm like, I got to the point, it's like I'm sitting in the deer stand and I'm like, there's so much other stuff I could be doing right now besides sitting here waiting on a deer. So, and I've kind of got to the point, it's like, it's easier for me to raise meat and farm my meat than it is to go hunt it. So I mean,
Absolutely.
It's fun and everything. And when my youngest one gets a little bit older, I know he'll want to go. He likes going coyote hunting right now. Mm-hmm. So we'll go coyote hunting. And I mean, we can do that whenever. Yep. So, and he likes it. We went coyote hunting about a month or so ago, and he absolutely loved it. So
yeah, that's like you said, man, as soon as we got to the point where I don't need the meat for the freezer, it's not quite as important. Yeah. And like you said, over the last 2 years, I'm sitting there, and I'm out sitting in the stand. I'm like, okay, the sun's up. I could be doing this instead of sitting here.
Yeah. So, and that was my problem. It's like I could be in my shop working, or I could be making money doing something else. And I'm just like, I'll do it later. Like I said, when my youngest one gets a little bit older, we'll go out and do it. And if he wants to do it, I'll take the time and do it with him.
Yeah. Well, and quite frankly, I'm hunting by myself now, and a large part of the hunting experience was being with your buddies and talking all the crap and having a couple of beers and just making fun of each other.
Oh yeah. I mean, probably one of the funniest stories. My wife, we were dating at the time, and I told her, I was like, "Do you want to go deer hunting with me?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." So like, she shows up dressed super nice to the T's, has got her hair done, makeup on, and everything, and I'm like, "What the freak is going on?" I'm just like, "Holy shit, this girl don't get it." So we get to the stand, sitting in the stand. I was sitting there looking at something on my phone, and she hits me and she goes, "Deer, deer." And this nice little buck was coming along, and I pull the gun up, and he's like 50 yards away, and I whistle, and he stops. And I shoot him right in the neck, and just blood splatter everywhere. And I mean, she sees the blood going everywhere, and she goes, "Oh my God, what is that?" And I'm like, "Just relax." And she was like, "That's the nastiest thing I've ever seen." So we wait for the deer to run off. Everything's good. We get all our stuff collected, and I'm like, "We got to field dress this thing." So we get it field dressed, and she's like, "I don't know if I'm coming back ever again deer hunting with you." So we drag it out of the woods. We're coming across the road, dragging it across the road. One of the game wardens happens to just be driving by right then. And so he pulls up by my truck. And of course, my wife is like, she looked at him. She goes, "I didn't shoot this." She said, "He did it. I don't have a license." She's like, "He's the one hunting and all this." And I'm like, "Just relax." And he's like, "Let me see your license." And he looked at my license, all this stuff. And I'd had it tagged and everything. I said, "It's a good thing you showed up." He goes, "Why is that?" I said, "Because your ass is going to help me load this thing in the truck. I'm not going to make her do it." And he looked at me and he's like, "Are you for real?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You're standing here. Help me load it in the truck." So that's one of the last times she went hunting with me.
So I have never got Yoda to go hunting with me yet. Took the kids when they were younger, and my son enjoys it. My daughter, yeah, she wasn't into it. But you're talking about cleaning animals. So the first 2 deer I shot, my buddy dressed them out for me because I didn't know I didn't know anything about it. And So finally, the third year, I'm going to do it. I will do it myself. Just stand there, don't say anything, unless I'm doing something wrong. So I get this deer, and I'm having a hard time getting the esophagus out. And
Mm-hmm.
he had neglected to tell me that I forgot to cut the breastbone. So I am literally up to here inside this
Shoulder
deer.
deep.
Our buddies pull up in the pickup truck, and they're just a couple of good old boys. One of them's like Uncle Side, but he cusses and drinks, and the other one's an old crunchy biker dude. And they pull up, and Louis rolls down his window, and he looks out the window, and he goes, "Why the hell did you not cut the breastbone?" And my buddy just literally fell on the ground laughing so hard, and I was like, "Oh, it is so on." And but it's just stuff like that. That's the thing I miss about hunting the most.
Oh yeah, I mean, we did some fun stuff. I mean, when we were in college, one day one of the boys, he is from far eastern Kentucky. I mean, the kid had never shot a rifle with a scope on it ever in his life. So one of our other fraternity brothers, he's like, I've got a Browning 270 with a scope. He's like, you can borrow it to go hunting. He's like, and in eastern Kentucky, they don't have a ton of deer over there. And he's like, I've never really seen, a bunch of deer and everything. I was like, we'll take you, set you up in one of these bottoms that they've cut the corn out of. Everything will be cool. It's like you've got 7 bullets with this gun, and we showed him how to do it with a scope, because I mean, hell, he'd never looked through a scope before. So we showed him how to do it. Me and my other fraternity brother, we drove him down to the stand, drove back up, and it started sprinkling. I was like, I'm not going to go sit in the rain. He's like, let's just sit in the back of the truck with a camper shell, looking over a field. And I was like, okay. So me and him are sitting in there, laying prone, and what we told my other fraternity brother, said, if you shoot anything, come back to your truck and honk the horn, and we'll come get you. And he's like, okay. So we hear like 7 shots in a row, and we're like, what in the hell is this kid doing? And I mean, he would tell lies and exaggerate everything. So like 7 shots, and we're like, we just got over here. We're going to kill something. So my buddy had bought a 300 Win Mag, and he was like, I really want to shoot this thing if a doe comes out. I was like, okay, cool. He shoots a 300 Win Mag out of a camper shell in a truck. And I was like this, plugging my ears. It still, the concussion off that thing was crazy. So we go and get his deer that he just shot, and then by this time, our other fraternity brother that fired off all the rounds has walked like a mile and found us in the truck. And he's like, come on. He's like, I got 4 dead deer down there. And I'm like, dude, you've got to be lying. And he's like, no. He said, they're down there dead. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we drive down, we stop at one of the bottoms, and he's like, it's just right over here. They're just right over here. So we walk damn near a quarter mile because he said it was close. So we walk all that. The kid, there is a pool of blood probably 10 foot around where he's massacred these deer. And there he is. There are 3 dead deer there. And we're like, where's the other one? And he's like, it took off this way. So we start walking. This one doe jumps up. He had shot her through her front legs. So her front legs were just flopping. So she finally stops. We have to put her down. But yeah, he shot 4 deer that day. And we're like, okay, start field dressing it. He's like, how the hell do you do that? So we're like, oh shit. So we ended up with 5 dead deer at the fraternity house that day, butchering all of them out.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it looked like a massacre at the fraternity house.
Did you ever watch Duck Dynasty?
Yes.
You remember the episode where Jay shot the deer and he skinned it in the front yard of his subdivision?
Yeah.
I shot a deer and I brought it home. We lived in a subdivision at the time, and my wife was freaking out because I'm hanging this thing in the backyard, and she's like, "Oh, the neighbors are going to be all upset." And I'll be darned, I'm sitting there, I'm dressing this deer out, skinning it and everything. I had 3 different neighbors come up and go, "Hey, it's a pretty nice looking deer," and sit there over the fence talking deer hunting with me.
My youngest one, I'd killed a deer, and I was going to string it up in the shop, and I didn't have anything. Usually I kept an old kiddie pool, and when I was skinning it and everything, I just let everything fall in the kiddie pool underneath it, and then you could just clean everything up that way. Something had happened to my kiddie pool, so I went and grabbed his kiddie pool and was using that. And he came down. The kid lost his mind. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "That's my kiddie pool." He's like, "There's deer junk in it." And he's like, "I need a new pool." And just totally lost his mind because I used his kiddie pool for all that. So,
Well, do you blame him?
well, he got over it. I bought him a new pool later. So,
Oh yeah, I could talk. The hunting stories just abound after so many years, and just I hunted with a bunch of characters. Seriously, they were like something out of a novel with their characteristics and stuff. You know.
oh yeah, I mean, I had it timed. The deer on my uncle's farm it took them 2 days to make a big loop, and I could tell my buddies if they wanted to go hunting what days they'd say, "Hey, I want to go on Wednesday," and I would tell them what stands to be in, and deer would come by on those days. I just had it all timed out. I scouted and looked around that much in college.
And that's the thing that drives me nuts about this property, because we've got soybean fields all around us, and we're like this little hub down at the bottom of the valley, and the deer cross across our property to go between. There's some high timber to the north of us that they bed down in, but they get water in our pond, and they're coming out of these fields and stuff. And I've seen some really nice deer. I saw a couple of great big does, and there was a big 10-pointer not 50 yards from our front door before the season started. And it was like the season started and they all just disappeared.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know what's going on. So hopefully during doe season starts on the 1st. Hopefully I can get one, because tonight I had a venison tenderloin and a little glass of Merlot for dinner. That was just awesome.
Oh yeah. But yeah, hunting stories. I mean, I've got tons of hunting stories. I'll pick back up hunting pretty soon one of these days when he gets older. I just don't have time. It seems like I don't have time to do anything. So,
Yeah,
but it was some of the best times in college deer hunting for sure.
Oh, yeah, so, definitely.
And probably one of the funniest stories. A couple of my fraternity brothers love to coon hunt. So I told them, I was like, "I'll go coon hunting with you one night." So one of the other guys went, and it was during the season where you couldn't shoot them out of the tree. But he said, "Go ahead." He said, "We'll take a 22 with us." So one of our fraternity brothers he was carrying a 22, and we told him, it's like, "If you see the game warden, chuck the 22 up in the woods a little bit, and we won't get busted." And he was like, "Okay, cool." So we're hunting, running the dogs, doing all this stuff. Game warden shows up, and we're like, "Get rid of the gun." So he's like, "Okay." So he gets rid of the gun. We talk to game wardens and everything. We keep going on, and we're like, "Hey, we need to go back and get the gun." And we're like, "Where is it?" He goes, "It's up in the woods." And we're like, "Cool, go get it." He goes, "You told me to toss it up in the woods." He said, "I took the damn thing and threw it up in the woods." Lost the 22. We're like, "You really threw it up in the woods?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "I took it by the barrel and just chucked it as far as I could." He said, "I was scared to death." Never found that 22. So we're like, "God, you're so stupid." We never took him hunting again. So, but yeah, that was the last time he went coon hunting with us.
Oh my goodness. So the one and only time I went coon hunting, I ended up in the river in the middle of the night, and I was like, "Okay, I'm done. This is not for me." But, okay, man, we have been at this for about an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I appreciate you showing up. Seriously.
Oh, no problem. I had a great time.
So. You passed on a lot of great information to people, and folks, let me post the link to Kentucky Sustainable's channel again.
I'm trying to get over 1,000 subscribers. It seems like it's freaking stalled out on me.
Well, and supposedly it'll pick back up. You got to start doing shorts. Figure out. Apparently, people really like puppies.
Oh, wow.
You know, I did a short on the puppy today, and it got 14,000 views in 3 hours, which just blows my mind. Seriously.
Well, hell, I want to go steal some little kid's Christmas puppy and take a video with it. Then
there you go. Go. But the information you passed on was awesome, and you get. I've been at this a long time. kind of kills me because we had to take a step back buying this property and starting over. But I see channels like yours and Billy's and all these other people, and I get so many great ideas. In fact, it's almost overload, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, and I get overload sometimes too. It's like I want to do this, I want to do that, and it's like time is my biggest thing, that I just don't have enough time to do everything I want to do.
Okay, so if you've got one thing that you can tell people right now, what is the one thing you would say to everybody that's watching this, as far as how to proceed from where they are? What would you say to them right now?
Keep going. I mean, that's the big thing. You're going to get discouraged and stuff. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do stupid shit. I mean, I do stupid shit still. But don't get discouraged. Just keep your head down and plow along. You're going to fall down. As long as you get up when you fall down, everything's going to be fine. Learn from your mistakes. I mean, just keep on. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, and a way of life is what it really turns into if you're serious about it.
Absolutely.
So, stay the course is the biggest thing.
Absolutely. No, have a goal and know where you're going.
Yeah.
You know,
and don't be afraid to change the goal. So I mean, you might set some lofty goal, and it's like there's no way we can ever do this. Change your goals sometimes, and set some smaller goals to show that you're winning. You know, maybe don't set the goal to say, hey, in the next 6 months I want to be 80% sustainable at my place, because unless you've got a ton of money, in 6 months you're not going to be sustainable at your place. I mean,
absolutely.
You could do it, but you've got to have a lot of money to do that. Set some small goals. If you're sitting there now and you've got a 2 or 3 acre place, and you're like, set the goal of, I want a chicken coop built and I want a flock of chickens. Set that goal. That's a doable goal by spring for somebody to have. You know,
absolutely.
In the next 2 months, you could get a chicken coop built and you could get chickens going with that. And then you write that down in the win column. I've got my flock of chickens. I won that battle. So now let's move on. Maybe I want to get some rabbits. You know, do that. You can set up, build your rabbit hutch and get you some rabbits. That's a win. Break it up into small victories, and the small victories will eventually get you where you want to go.
Absolutely. Hang on a second. Oh, that water went down the wrong pipe. I'm sorry. Well, folks, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Like I said, go over to Jason's channel, Kentucky Sustainable Living. Subscribe to it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Hit that notification bell, because I'm really enjoying it. You're the second person that I've interviewed. I interviewed Native Voice earlier, back in November, and I really enjoy these interviews because you guys give me a lot of you give me a lot of motivation to get moving again.
I appreciate it. I like doing the lives because we've got so much different stuff we can talk about. I mean, we can go from hunting to setting goals to freeze dryers to everything in between. That's the cool thing I like about the lives.
Excellent. Yep, absolutely.
So okay, we ought to do a Q&A one night, just where we just answer everybody's questions.
I'm trying to figure out a good way to do that. Yes, that's my answer. Yes, we need to do that. And as soon as I figure out how to make it work smoothly, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. I'm going to get a panel of 3 or 4 people on board, and we're just going to have people post questions, and everybody's going to answer however they feel.
Oh yeah, I'm game for that.
All right. I will keep you in mind. Okay, folks. Going on an hour and 30 minutes. I appreciate you guys showing up. You guys would make it worthwhile. Seriously. Wouldn't be sitting here doing it if you guys didn't show up. Seriously.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for everybody that came in.
All right. folks, go out. I want you to go out tomorrow and pursue a life done free. Okay. Take care.